like to call to order the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners and Cities meeting, County Workshop on March 5th, 2024. At this time, please silence all electronic devices and use your microphones. Please rise for the invocation and pledge allegiance.
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
Amen. Flag over here.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Wheaton.
Present.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey. District 4, Commissioner Bradford. District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Here.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Here.
And Mr. Carbala, County Administrator.
Here.
From the City of Port Richey, Mayor John Eric Hoover.
Here.
Vice Mayor Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilman Tom Kinsella. Councilman Dave Mueller.
Here.
Councilwoman Cherokee Sampson. And Mr. Matthew W. Koppler, City Manager.
Here.
From the City of Newport Richey, Mayor Chopper Davis.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Matt Murphy.
Here.
Councilman Peter Altman.
Here.
Councilman Mike Peters.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelly Motherson. Here. And Miss Debbie Mann, City Manager. Here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to this year's Joint Cities County Board Workshop. Special thanks to the staff for all the organizing of this event. And go into your opening remarks. That's a little note from me. I am more than happy to find you here today. And I mean, in years past, Port Richey has not necessarily been a part of this meeting at times. Maybe the city manager or somebody, but not everyone has been showing up. So we're very thankful that y'all are here today, and we're open to hear what you have to say about your city and your issues, and we want to hear those so we can help you. So Newport Richey has been coming pretty often and joining, but it's much better when everybody's at the table, and it works out better for everyone. So
Just get your checkbook out.
I was going to use Chopper. But Mr. Carbala, do you want to go into what we're going to do here today?
Certainly, Mr. Chair, thank you, and just thank you everyone for joining us here in our community development conference room, recently renovated over here, so thank you. When we had a call for items, we distilled them down into really three main areas. We talked about transportation issues, water, natural resources, as well as policy and growth management. And the agenda here is just follows those themes along with the organization that brought the item up. So, for example, in the transportation, Pasco County wanted to discuss Grand Boulevard. Looks like we have a couple items there, as well as Green Key Road and paving. So we'll just kind of follow that theme. Of course, you know, as we organically have the conversation continue, when we get to the end, if there's topics that folks didn't have a chance to get on the agenda, we certainly can briefly go through those items. So I don't really want to take up much of your time, so I think we can just jump right into the Pasco County item of Green Key under transportation. So I think we have staff ready that can
Staff's going to start on a slight presentation of that Green Key.
on Grand Boulevard.
Grand Boulevard.
So I'd like to bring forward our county engineer, Nick Hoover.
All right. I think I'm going to make my way down here and just talk from the front, if that's all right. Then we can see.
Just introduce who you are, Nick, so everybody at the table knows.
Let's see. Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Uren, and I'm the Pasco County engineer. And briefly, as a way of introduction, I came here in June of 2023. I'm a resident of Pasco County and on my way to becoming a resident of the city of Newport Richey once we finish constructing a home in your city. So we're excited about that. And came here after serving 20 years in Palm Beach County, where we had 39 municipalities and a much larger room for the joint county-city collaboration meeting. So I'm excited to be a part of this discussion and figure out how we can do transportation projects that benefit our mutual constituents and our community as a whole. So I'm going to talk just briefly about some of the projects that are already known partnerships, and then we'll open it up to discussion about those, as well as any other items that we ought to be touching on going forward. I don't know who's controlling the slide, so go ahead and jump to the next slide. Briefly, our Transportation Engineering Department has a mission statement. We are here to plan, build, operate, and maintain a safe, connected, efficient, and multimodal transportation system for all users. So all of those adjectives matter to us. Safe, connected, efficient, multimodal, and all users. And what we like to say is, we're trying to build a transportation system that works for an 8-year-old or an 80-year-old. Whether we're trying to get kids to school or whether we're trying to allow our residents to age in place, we want to build facilities that work for the whole community. Go ahead to the next slide. Some existing projects. This is just a snapshot of our 5-year CIP focused on the western communities and the borders that we share with the two cities here this morning. We've got several existing projects in the vicinity, and I'm going to talk about just a few of them. So jump to the next slide, and we'll talk about Grand Boulevard Bridge. The design for this bridge replacement project is underway. The bridge was built in 1950. It's coming up on 75 years of service, and we are going to be replacing it. It's going to be a full tear-down rebuild. Reconstruction in fiscal year 26 is our hopeful start date for construction. That's an existing partnership we have with the City of Newport Richey to look at design modifications to the new bridge and to try to increase the vertical clearance. We're going to be designing that and defining the impacts of that increased vertical clearance as we go through the design process, and then figure out just how to make that an asset both for the waterway navigation as well as the people traveling north-south to get into the vibrant downtown of Newport Richey. And jump to the next slide. This is a project that is outside of the city's limits, Grand Boulevard Sidewalk, but we are constructing a continuous sidewalk all the way from south of State Road 54 up to Cecilia Drive, which is the border between unincorporated county and the City of Newport Richey. And this is going to be creating a multimodal pathway, a connection for pedestrian activity to get into the pathway network that the city is already constructing on their portion of Grand Boulevard to the north of that jurisdictional boundary. One more slide. And then I wanted to touch on, this is not an existing project, but there is discussion underway through the MPO of the potential to partner with the City of Port Richey on modifications at the Grand Boulevard intersection with US 19. This is, the idea is that we would be adding east and west left turn lanes on the Grand Boulevard approaches to 19 that would allow for FDOT to approve the golf cart crossings at this intersection. It would also improve the capacity and the operations of the intersection for the routine vehicles that are currently using it. And this is a partnership that I think the city is hoping to pursue funding through the MPO. So this is one of those multi-agency initiatives where we can see if we can't secure some funding for this, and then Pasco Engineering would serve as a pass-through to provide oversight for our federal, the rules and requirements for federal funding. We could function as an administrator of the project and allow the City of Newport Richey to pursue that and get that built. And then I think the last one, I am not as familiar with, because this is more of a public works project, but this was also on the agenda. I think our public works department added it in. And this is the Green Key Road paving and maintenance. And I just wanted to mention that because it's on the agenda and highlight the location of it. And Mike, I'm afraid, I'm looking around the room and thinking, it's either you or me or a wing and a prayer if there are questions on this one. But again, these are the projects that we've highlighted on the agenda. These are partnerships that we're doing together with the cities, and we wanted to open up for any conversation or discussion about these projects, and I think I'll close with that last slide. Or if there are any other items that you want me to be aware of, I think we're ready for questions and discussion on the transportation infrastructure.
Any questions for Nick with Newport Richey? Peter?
Yes, sir. Just a commentary about the bike trails that are going to be listed under natural resources, but that bridge on Grand and the design work that the city's trying to do for its bike trail coming from Marine Parkway and down Grand Boulevard, hopefully, I'm sure will be a component of the design of the bridge. And so Tidal Wave Drive, which is the one road when you pull the slide up, has an existing building. There used to be Clyde Hobbies law office. It's pretty high, but it's going to be curious to see how you figure that elevation as it goes to there. So I know we're very interested in that. The other comment about that bridge, when you cut it down, it's going to increase the traffic on Madison, because all the traffic that's got, we have such a long north-south river that the crossings of Ridge Road, Main Street, are going to go all the way back now to Trouble Creek. So whatever traffic is coming into our city trying to go east-west or north-south coming in from Tampa is going to be pretty well relegated to Rowan Road or Madison or 19. And so you mentioned Cecilia at the end of your sidewalk with the new Gulf High School that also is at the corner of Cecilia and Madison. That is going to become a trouble spot because of the serious amount of traffic flowing in and the no left turn. And so I think if the transportation folks want to look at that intersection, you've got 2 or 3 years before it could become very difficult, I think, at that part. That's my comment.
I think that's part of Nick's job.
Yeah. I just want to ask a question about the Grand Boulevard bike or pedestrian sidewalk. Is that going to be for bike paths, looking, the whole ideal of east-west bike path across the state?
The Grand Boulevard project that we're building is a 5-foot sidewalk that's going to be constructed on the east side of the road, primarily for pedestrian activity. Will it connect to the south to the Orange Belt Trail?
Right. And then where it's also it goes up to and out Massachusetts, of course, connects with Starkey, heads across the state too.
Yes. Yeah, so the answer is yes. We are one of the things that we're doing on a countywide scale is constructing that multimodal network, including the extension of the Orange Belt Trail all the way through to connect with the state, which the state of Florida has this national, they have a statewide multimodal transportation network that they call the Sun Trail system. And the Orange Belt Trail is part of that, and we're going to be constructing that, our segments of the Orange Belt Trail as part of that overall statewide Sun Trail system.
And that is part of what Grand's going to be?
And Grand will have connections to that, yes.
Okay, that's what I was
yes.
wondering.
Good question.
A sidewalk's a sidewalk, but then if the lights are on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just a question, maybe we're going to talk about this under the bike trail connections, but for Green Key Road, repaving and improvements, maintenance, there's some flooding issues back in that part of the world, right? But so I don't know if the paving that's going to be any elevation changes to the roads or any drainage improvements along that roadway as that's taken. And one step further, also, I think there was at some point in time a discussion about a multi-use path along Green Key out to the park. And I want to know if that was in plans.
I'm wondering if the gentleman who's poking his head in right now can answer that question.
Perfect timing, Mr. Adamore.
You might as well go up front.
Just go up front, actually, Branford. So,
the question is about Green Key repaving. Yes. And whether there will be any increase in elevation, drainage modifications, or addition of a multi-use path as part of the repaving project.
Okay, so the only thing I can say
You
is...
got to do the mic first.
Here we are.
Just in time.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry I was running late. So I think what we would like to do is to raise it a little bit where we can, but all those things that he mentioned are not going to be included in the project.
Including bike?
No, they are not going to be included.
So a multi-use trail along Green Key Road, is that in the works?
No, that is not part of the road improvements. It's mainly elevating the road to reduce the flooding in that area and also providing for road-related drainage.
It's strictly a maintenance project, is what
Yes, yes.
And
It's not a capital
what's
project.
the date on that? You have a date on it, actual construction or actually going up?
Excuse me, can you
Do you have a
repeat?
date? When
A
you-
date? I don't have the date with me, but I can find that out and provide that.
And I'm sure you've been in touch with the city, because the first part of that road is within our city limits, and we probably want to coordinate
Yes.
improvement at the same time.
Yes, we are coordinating. We are coordinating.
Any other questions for Bradford? Bradford, if you will, get that date of when that's going to start.
Yes.
And make sure Newport Richey's aware of that. So.
Yes, I will.
Newport Richey, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? And let me, to help everybody understand, if you need to ask a question, just stick your name tag up, like so, and that way I won't miss you. And I'll see you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Actually, in the spirit of talking about collaboration along Grand Boulevard, I know our Office of Economic Growth and our planning folks have done some things. I'd like Mr. Engel, just if he could, just to speak for a quick second about some of those efforts as well, and see if that spurs any more discussion.
Good.
Thank you. Good morning.
You didn't get that word either.
David Engel, I'm Pasco County's Planning and Economic Growth Director. So we have a variety of initiatives along Grand Boulevard because it's a very important corridor to revitalize. So we're focusing on placemaking, bringing in revenue there to do certain specific projects. Our first project is street lighting. It's from Cecilia South to 54. We're going to try to use street lighting that is similar to what Newport Richey uses, so there's a consistency there and a brand. And we are trying to secure grants for that, and we're focusing on options with using solar power versus electric. Secondly, we're working on a street art mural project located on the Grand Boulevard. We found that street art murals enhance the quality of the experience with the stores there, and also it elevates property values over time. Thirdly, we are aggressively focusing on grants now for this area of the county. We have an AARP grant that we're about ready to submit this week for age-friendly seating and outside spaces at the Ulmer Senior Center. And we are going to be also working on an overlay district for Grand Boulevard and US 19. So we're focusing on incentives for redevelopment, revitalization, and form-based zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Any questions at all for David?
Ron, just one last thing. You know, the city of Newport Richey is really supportive of Port Richey's efforts and the county's efforts to the golf cart crossing there at Grand Boulevard. The city's been successful with DOT's help in establishing a couple crossings, and it's been received very well. And I know there have been in the past talks about crossing underneath the bridge, and that just seems to could be economically difficult to do for a lot of purposes. And I know a lot of our residents would enjoy that opportunity to take the golf carts across 19 towards the city of Port Richey. So we encourage that project to continue.
Has Nicholas, FDOT spoken out about the use of that crossing for golf carts?
In fact, yes, and the reason that the left turns are being proposed at the intersection of Grand and 19 is because that is a condition of allowing the golf carts to cross the intersection. I think the golf carts, when they are combined with the vehicular traffic in a single lane approaching the intersection, they just move slower. And so they deteriorate the operational efficiency of the intersection, but when you create the separate turn lanes, then you can maintain both the efficiency and the safety, trying to provide a balance to those two desired outcomes.
Yes, sir.
Along the same lines with the Grand Boulevard improvements you guys are looking at, and obviously with our intersection there at Grand Boulevard 19, there's a section that as you come out of the city of Newport Richey, obviously there's sidewalks along the river there, but as you get into Port Richey, you don't have any of that. There's no sidewalks, no way for pedestrians to walk along there to get down to the waterfront through that intersection. I don't know, is it a long-term vision you guys look at potentially improving that area as well of Grand Boulevard? Something that we partner with, or?
Well, I think I should clarify the intersection of Grand and 19. The role of Pasco County will be a facilitating role if the city is to pursue funding through the MPO and receive grant funding and then be able to supplement that with city funds. We would we basically offer our administrative abilities and certifications to the city to allow for those things to be constructed. If the city wants to expand the scope of the project and pursue additional funding through the MPO's grant programs, then certainly that could fall under that same umbrella. But Pasco County is not pursuing funds to modify an existing city street at this time.
Okay, and with the street so much as the actual sidewalks, I guess, that pedestrian path.
Sure, when I say street, I mean the content within the existing city's right of way.
Gotcha.
Not just the pavement. You know, I say street, I mean right of way. So, yeah, we wouldn't be pursuing funds to construct a sidewalk on a city street, but if the city were to secure funds through a grant program and need our administrative abilities to utilize those funds, then we would be happy to partner with the city.
Great, thanks.
And you'll see that there's grant funds available in NPO that you need to talk to or reach out to NPO organization and be a part of that discussion. And there's monies there that can be had. A lot of times we forget they're there. We need to reach out. If you got that issue, then reach out and see what's available for the city there for doing the sidewalks and things of that nature. That's a very good thing to happen.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Nick, with the safety grant that we just got from the feds, would that be part of something that could be looked at in the study?
So I think, Commissioner, what you're referring to is that the USDOT just published a notice of funding opportunity for the Safe Streets for All grant program. That's part of the Biden infrastructure, bipartisan infrastructure bill, or bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed in 2020. Yes, right. Possibly. So what we're doing right now, just so the group is aware, the MPO has secured a grant through the Safe Streets for All umbrella program to conduct a county-wide multimodal transportation safety evaluation and create an action plan. I'm looking at the MPO staff and they're giving me good head nods, so I think I'm doing okay. What we're going to do with that is try to identify projects that we can then submit future grant applications for this Safe Streets for All funding. In the interim, so in this particular cycle, there may be some constraints on the types of projects we can submit because we haven't finalized and completed our action plan just yet. But we are certainly going to make our cities aware of any and every potential funding opportunity as they become available once we establish this action plan, or if there's any sort of possibility for a demonstration project. We'll figure it out and we will share information with you so that you don't miss windows of opportunity.
We'll come up and speak to NPO grants.
Yes.
We're not aware of the time. So.
Yeah, and there are several that are coming up. In fact, and I'll just mention while Tania's walking up, I will mention that we are going to be submitting an application through the Bridge Improvement Program grant, which is another USDOT grant program, to see if we can't buy down some of the costs associated with the Grand Boulevard Bridge Replacement Project. So we're hopeful that that grant application will be successful in contributing some federal funding that we've already paid up to Washington. We want to bring it back down here to infrastructure projects that benefit our communities, and the reconstruction or rebuilding of Grand Boulevard Bridge as a multimodal infrastructure project is the kind of application that Bridge Investment Program looks very favorably on. So we're hopeful that we'll see some success in that regard.
And Nick, on that, this is a good opportunity to thank both the City of Port Richey and the City of New Port Richey for their letters of support that we could include in our application for that bridge grant.
Yes.
Good morning, I'm Tia Corman, the MPO Executive Director. I would just like to take a few moments. I apologize about my voice. It's very hoarse this morning. I'd like to take a few moments to discuss the grant opportunities through the MPO. So the MPO is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We get federal and state dollars to complete and support our long-range transportation plans here in Pasco County. So the biggest example right now is we're going through the work program cycle with FDOT. We are working on securing our SU funds, which is a big part of our, I think it's a decent amount of money that we use to secure some of these local projects that we're trying to do. This year, the MPO is trying to turn the needle when it comes to the smaller projects and getting those done around the county. So we really want to work with the cities and the county to use some of those SU funds. On top of that, we get state funds, dedicated district revenue funds, and we work alongside the state with those funds and prioritize and plan those. As well, on top of, we go out for a regional incentive grant program, which we work with TED to secure and prioritize those projects. And we also use county incentive grant program dollars as well. That is a grant through the state. So we have many avenues to help and assist with the projects that you're trying to do. You can always reach out to me or the MPO staff if you have projects that you want to get on the list of priority projects.
Thank you, Tania. Any question for Tania? Okay.
Yes, sir. Not necessarily a question, but thank you. I just wanted maybe to give a little bit of perspective from the city of Port Richey's viewpoint. So we're also going through the Safe Streets program as well. We're going to be rebidding it out to get a consultant on board. And with that, I think at the same time as you're doing yours, we'll be able to come up with some projects within the city that we think are going to be, focused on, not only the city's perspective, but also regional perspective. Case of Grand Boulevard, if you take the golf cart crossing out of it, you don't have a very well-functioning intersection to begin with. And I think that's kind of what came together when the city applied for the golf cart crossing, is DOT recognized that, we don't have a great working intersection and probably are requiring a little bit more of us than what they might have if we had a well-functioning intersection. But, we're looking at not only just providing a left, but we're probably going to be providing a protected left, so we're going to have to deal with the traffic signals as well. So that project, probably went from a small amount one day to a very large amount overnight on us as we were working with DOT. But again, that intersection, that corridor all the way into Newport Richey, I think is very important for both the city of Newport Richey and the city of Port Richey. Connecting the downtown to the waterfront, I think is something that would work well for both cities. And I know in talking in short 4 months with City Council on this, I think they see that as an important project going forward. We're going through goal setting, so you're probably going to see that as one of the goals coming out of there is looking at that corridor and what the city can do to help stimulate more development along there. So we kind of look forward to working not only with the city of Newport Richey on what we can do together, but also the county, because obviously funding is one big key with this. And there's so many different projects that I think have been on the drawing board that really haven't gotten off center. And I think you'll see from the city that we're going to be starting to push those to try to get those things going forward. So we view that corridor as very important. That's why naturally when the county asked about a letter of support for that bridge, far away from us, but it's still a connection point to the city as well. And we want to be able to draw all those people down to the waterfront as we develop that, as well as along Grand Boulevard, where we have a number of restaurants and other establishments there that I think would benefit if we could get sidewalks and get that mobility and connectivity with the downtown of Newport Richey. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for all three of us to do something really grand on that boulevard.
Pun intended.
All right. Yeah, on the MPO priority list, that the underpass has been a priority. So I don't see why it's a separate conversation for the MPO. But I don't see why we can't, move our focus to a better solution, which is the crossing, and try to fund it through grants or whatever we need. I don't know if anybody else on the MPO wants to chime in on that, but I think it's desperately needed, and I think we should really focus on it.
Well, I'd say one thing about the MPO. We've been looking at a regional MPO with Hillsborough and Pinellas, City of Tampa, City of St. Petersburg, and City of Newport Richey. We've all been looking at this process, and at first we were a little nervous we will lose our money that we have in our MPO now, but in fact, you continue to keep that money locally that we can talk about in our MPO. But what it does for us is instead of being 47th as Pasco County looking at federal dollars, we would, in that regional group, we would be 17th looking for federal dollars to come into our area that helps everybody. So the movement around our region is very important. And we still have some 2-lane roads that are connecting us to Hillsborough and all need to be 4-lane. Like 301 is a bigger portion of that would go into Hillsborough, and they get more money to take care of that. But we only have a small stretch there. It's just as important for that small stretch as it is that larger part. So I don't have a problem working some of those issues. Secretary Gwynn was really behind us to try to work this out, and I'm actually gotten more on board as we talk more about it because of the value of those federal dollars coming into our region would be very important, and we still have our monies that we normally see in our own MPO. So, Mr. Mariano?
Yeah, back to the other house. I think it's something that the city should be working at really hard on. The MPO's had it on the list for many years now. It was number one at one point. If you can get people to cross underneath 19, not going over 19, it is so much safer. I think your seniors, your people going back and forth, be much more prone rather than take that 6-lane highway in your hands. I think from what you're telling me, the dual left turn lanes and probably other improvements going to be down in that area because it is a tight intersection with the little median issues going on there too. You might spend as much money improving that exchange going across than you would going underneath. So I would definitely work hard with that. And I think you've got a couple of businesses that, between catches, I think would work with you, and I think there's other businesses, from what I've heard, on the other side of the bridge, are actually willing to come to the table too to make some improvements. But it's going to take you guys having that dialogue.
Yes, sir.
And I agree. I think, they're really, from my perspective, two different issues. Although they're similar, they're different. The Grand Boulevard crossing really is about vehicular traffic. I agree, pedestrians and people on bicycles trying to cross US 19 is crazy. And to provide another outlet, which I think that underpass would do, makes a lot of sense, and I think would help in the mobility and the connectivity to Newport Richey. But that alone would not, create the environment necessary to get the rest of the way to Newport Richey. And from the city's perspective, we have to figure that out. We get underneath the bridge, going to the waterfront's really easy. But getting from, underneath the bridge all the way to Newport Richey and getting into the residential areas of our city becomes a little bit more of an issue. One that we're going to have to, plan and figure out the best way to make that connection. But I think where an ask would be in this is, we're not going to be able to figure that out by ourselves. We don't have the planning staff necessary to be doing some of this work. And so we're left to try and find grants to actually do the engineering, preliminary engineering and study necessary to make those connections. And again, I don't know from the county MPO's perspective if there's any way we could work with them to kind of focus on those areas so we can maybe get ourselves in a better position to get the funding necessary to actually get from us talking about it here today to actually shovels in the ground. And I think that's, unfortunately for us, has been, the challenge. We've talked about these things a lot, but we don't have any shovels in the ground yet. And I think it's something that we want to start doing.
Mr. Mariano?
And before you go into the shovels in the ground, you have to get to the design. But I will tell you, the MPO, Tania, Nick, our team, I know DOT would really go to the table and we'll sit down and work with you to help you get the engineering part of it done and get rolling, but it's going to take taking a step forward, and otherwise, welcome aboard.
Yeah, and I apologize for overwhelming you with all the information. On Cody River, I gave you the feasibility study, all that information, and part of that is the MPO, we prioritize based on the information that we have. So as far as Cody River, it's on the priority list of projects, but it also needs support from both the cities as far as funding on top of the grants that we can also allocate and on top of working with TEG. So it's just a communication that I think we could sit down and really work out and lay out Cody River and get that going on top of working with catches as well and getting that going as well, so.
Mr. Chair, can I help you to segue to item 2 in the bike and hike trail? As Councilman Peters had mentioned, we've we talk a lot about multimodal, and as they're up there, would that be all right, or are there still issues on the part on transportation? Because interestingly, you know, transportation is not the only reason for multimodal. It's also recreation and economic development. And I know there was a point when I was with the city when we were working on the Coast to Coast Trail, which comes from Titusville and goes across Orlando through sort of Brooksville, Dade City, and gets all the way to the Suncoast Parkway. But a Coast to Coast Trail is more of a recreational trail. And so it leads into tourism and ecotourism and blue ways and all of those things that are about our two twin cities on the river and the attractiveness that we can have to sort of that ecotourism area. So that being said, when you talk about bike trails, a number of years back the city did do a master plan and envisioned that the Coast to Coast Trail could come through, and I think it's Massachusetts Avenue, which is sort of effectively now the Ridge Road extension in some ways, if you continue it on out through the Cubulus and on in. So for recreational and economic benefit of the recreational biker, Gunther Flagg, who's been on your MPO multimodal committee for a long time, has the last piece of 60 acres that lead all the way up to your part on Trouble Creek Road. And so we have had in the past a strategy for an overpass for bicycle trail at Marine Parkway to connect through from a recreational standpoint. I mention it because when I was talking to DOT when I worked for the city, and when you go for grants, and we did have like a $900,000 grant, which you were the one that informed me we didn't have it when I first got back on the committee, Mr. Oakley. That project is still, I believe, in the MPO wish list. But for all of the work on Grand Boulevard and the learning about the connection you're going to have to your other trail, and our opportunity with our 80-acre park and our nature-based tourism that we're focusing on, that overpass is still, I think, a critical opportunity, but only if it gets to the Gulf of Mexico. Because if I'm on the Appalachian Trail, I want to go from point A to B. If I'm on the Coast to Coast Trail, I want to go from Atlantic to the Gulf. And coming through our cities to get to the Gulf of Mexico on a statewide trail that goes that direction is an incredibly good opportunity, I think, for us to identify ourselves as this nature coast, sports coast connectivity. So that's a lot of what we're working towards, I think, and I'm hopeful. I know Gunther has been trying to sell that family property for a long time, but he's always indicated a commitment to put his trail through there, which would be recreational and get us to the coast. And then I know that had been suggested we could follow that coast all the way to connect to Tarpon Springs. Point being, the Pinellas Trail being one of the most popular trails in Florida, and Dunedin having been really revitalized because of it, and folks that like to travel longer distance than I can imagine, having them come all the way into Pasco County and have a good, easy recreational path to it, I think is a good long-term strategy for our city and for the county. So I would just, as we talk about going to Port Richey and back and creating that, and I think looking at the resiliency along the coastline and all of the BP oil spill money that is meant to revitalize, we should be looking at all kinds of potential grants to connect our cities, even into Hernando along the coast, and create a really exciting trail. We have so much natural land with the state parks, our own coastal areas. So that's my spiel.
Right now, I'm sorry, but our expert commissioner on trails happens to be running late. So I know she would be happy to add a lot more than what you've even said about trails and the connection. And we all realize the connection of trails is very important. the economic being of our county and how people move about it, especially in a recreational way, so.
We just want to see it come to our little downtowns and be part of our mission, not just to get it into Hillsborough or Pinellas or the beaches. There's an awful lot of north-south roads in Tampa, between Tampa and Clearwater Beach. We got a real direct route and a coastal route. I think is important.
Yeah, we've been looking at trails in Pasco going around San Antonio into Dade City and then all the way to Trillium, a big loop that actually people can drive to the Dade City area and then get on a trail, spend a day on a trail and then end up in the community.
Right.
So it really works out good. I know it works out good over here for your cities too, so. I can't even think to add to that.
Speaking of trails.
We just got off that topic.
Here's our commissioner expert of trails. I told him you were running a little late, so we're talking about the connection of trails from here back over to the east side.
Yeah.
Trails, you talk about trails.
Well, I was wondering what the city's plans are on Grand Boulevard and your multi-use path. You know, we'd love to see it come down to 54, and hopefully maybe that all helps activate that property at 54 and Grand, which we need to really try and promote, I think, for redevelopment. So, do you have any?
Okay.
Sure.
Grand Boulevard, what section?
Well, your section, and then, you know, as we redo that bridge, right, that bridge, we want to make sure it has room for a multi-use trail, hopefully connected to something that we need to look at doing on our end as we maybe do some redevelopment going down Grand Boulevard. I'll tell you, our office recently did a planning exercise at Gunn and 54. I don't remember what you call those, but we went past the charrette and we actually took action and we did a kind of like a sector plan, I guess, for the property on Gunn and 54 from the cemetery to Interlochen. And it's voluntary for the people that live in there, but it was a way to try and hope that that area would redevelop in a better way than just haphazard. And I hope that we can come and bring that same kind of plan to Elfers. And you know, Elfers has a nice grid. It used to be a little town. Maybe that's where we can put in that zoning that Frank Starkey likes to talk about. Do you have a planner?
Missing middle.
No. Form-based code. In Elfers area, and so, you know, whatever you're doing on Grand could help tie into Elfers area, and then we have the Grand and 54 property that could be some kind of anchor on the south side. So just thinking of uplifting all those communities along Grand Boulevard.
Yeah, and we do plan to establish a path along Grand Boulevard. At this point, our path system, which is a 10-foot wide multimodal path along with pedestrian amenities, will span to Marine Parkway, and that's as far south at this point as it's planned to span.
Then why would we, but we're going to put it on the bridge, which is...
We are going to put it on the bridge.
But it's not going to connect to anything, but a sidewalk on either side, maybe for now.
It will expand to a sidewalk system on the other side of Marine Parkway to Cecilia. But now that you're mentioning what you're doing to 54, I think it gives us good cause to consider spanning it out further south as well.
Yeah, I sent some of you an article that actually Tina sent me about Winter Garden and what the rails, what the
trails.
What that did for Winter Garden. And I had seen that years ago when I was on the Greenwich Trails Council. We had a meeting there 20 25 years ago about how they were really embracing that trail as part of their redevelopment strategy. So I just think the more trails we can bring into your downtown, the better your downtown's going to be.
Yes, this trail will go into our downtown area. Actually, it will connect the Pinellas Trail to the Starkey Trail and its conclusion.
But that's going down to Cumulus, right?
It will take Madison, Massachusetts.
Yeah, but what about the people that live to the south?
We need to make that connection
Right.
that you're referencing,
Yeah, Grand Boulevard seems to have the width to do something special. And the boulevard.
It does. Thank you.
Didn't we just hear the 5-foot sidewalk that you're installing? I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, that was one you brought up right at the beginning.
Yeah. So your own trail, your own project doesn't enable.
Doesn't include that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Quite a wide one. Well, there's the gentleman that brought it up in the beginning.
I don't know anything about that side.
I'm hiding behind.
Yeah.
Period. I'm still here.
That was what he said it was 5 foot wide.
Commissioner, I had mentioned that we have a sidewalk project for Grand Boulevard that we're doing.
Only 5 feet?
A 5-foot sidewalk on the east side of the road.
Yeah, that's
And I think it's important to note that Mariner Parkway is south of the river, and so the 10-foot multi-use path that the city is constructing on Grand will go across the river. Our reconstructed bridge, along with their reconstructed roadway, will provide a continuous 10-foot pathway on the west side of the road, all the way down to Mariner Parkway. And then I think what we need, the purpose of discussions like this is to talk about whether we would like to continue that. Maybe the city brings it all the way down to Cecilia and we pick it up from there and try to do something on the west side as a pathway enhancement. I know David mentioned, the street lighting. And so, you know, this is the point of a workshop like this. Do we all want to collaborate and work together to build that kind of an outcome in order to provide multimodal connectivity to these different nodes of development, like the property you referenced on 54?
Yeah, so I haven't seen any information on that sidewalk, but for me, I prefer to see a map than to just talk about it, so I understand what we're talking about. But do we have any maps here?
Well, he showed where the 5 foot was
Let's go
going
forward to one more. One more, sorry.
Close.
That's the bridge project, and then this is our sidewalk limit. So we're starting all the way down south of 54. This is...
Oh, the Grand Boulevard sidewalk south, yeah.
Right, so we're doing the Grand Boulevard sidewalk all the way down several miles south of 54, all the way up to Cecilia.
I did not know you were going north of 54 on
That's
that
right,
sidewalk.
we're going up to the city limits.
So it's going through Elfers.
Yes.
But it's only 5 foot.
Yeah, I'd really like to look at that to be wider. I mean, I don't know that we can get a 10-foot there, but can we get an 8-foot? That 2 people can walk side by side, or someone can ride a bike, because you can't ride a bike on a 5-foot sidewalk.
It's under construction right now.
Oh, jeez.
So again, I think the city's intent is the 10-foot pathway on the west side of Grand, and we can look in the future at the possibility of the right-of-way needed to support a 10-foot pathway on the west side of the road.
Okay, I never knew that was north of.
Yeah, I have some information going back to the year-old days, but this is 23 years ago, not 25 years ago.
I just
But John Gallagher had been offered by the railroad for that rail and turned it down. So we had an opportunity to have the rail trail, and it was given up in the early 2000s.
Are you talking about the cross-town?
No, the old railroad tracks that were going on Grand Boulevard, which used to be Highway 19, and that's where Snell's Nursery and a lot of the orange groves in Elfers were. But point being, looking at the right-of-way, figuring out what we can do, safe streets maybe narrowing them. I know our former mayor Marlo was big on the width of the road.
Yeah,
Grand Boulevard is only one lane coming in. If it's going to be a beautiful entrance and for the purposes of economic growth, it's going to take some looking at. But while we appreciate going to Grand Boulevard, we also appreciate your help getting us to the Gulf of Mexico so we could be part of that coast-to-coast trail. So it seems as things come to the city, they turn and go off. So we really want to be part of this trail system.
I would say that that property that's on Trouble Creek that you and I, was your family's property? I think that is working its way through our ELAM process.
Great.
Again, so we have that opportunity to bring that trail on 19 up through that Trouble Creek to at least to Eagle Park, and then we have some challenges to getting from Eagle over south, but I think it's quite easy for us to get it to Eagle, which is the end of Trouble Creek.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think with the bridge, we should be at least an 8-foot path, maybe a 10-foot if you can make it work, but
Yeah.
I definitely think we should put that in design. You should have 2 choke points on both ends.
Yeah.
I believe that's the intention.
Yeah, I think it is in the bridge.
Yeah, we're on the same page on that one.
Okay, right.
The bridge deck should accommodate a continuous 10-foot pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Town and Country.
Yep, Town and Country Villas, septic to sewer.
I brought it up in the last meeting, we talked about the city was going to look at doing the septic to sewer, and just wondering if any progress is happening over there.
At the last meeting, you brought up specifically the county and the city working together on grant applications, and we haven't identified a grant at this point that we thought we would work on together. Have you identified one?
The state's got septic to sewer grants through DEP.
Is that through?
Is there a specific grant that you thought we should work on together?
DEP.
You know, on March 22nd, there is a meeting at the county that you will be invited to, if you haven't gotten your invitation already. There'll be a lot of federal agencies there with Mark, Dr. Bellis, or I don't know who you want to speak.
We have
to that.
flyers that we're going to hand out here that give that information.
And we can find out more information there, but certainly that.
I'll note the date now.
Yeah, and that, but that's also something that you can ask the delegation to fund.
What's the date?
Right? So we could have had an appropriation request in for this year for something, but we would like that, I would like that to continue. Didn't we vote to continue that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know where we are on it.
On which one? The
This is, well, Town and Country Villas is
Yeah,
is
the
Leisure
deal
Lane.
was that the city and the county would work jointly
We would work jointly on a project. We haven't completed the
try to
land
find a
exchange
grant.
yet.
Okay, who on the county side is working on that?
Well, I mean, you know, we've got our grants coordinator on O&D where we stand ready, but
Okay, well, one of y'all has to like take a step forward.
Well, we have to
Maybe
I can
both of
start
y'all
doing
take a step forward and meet and, get that moving.
As soon as we complete the land exchange, then we will do that.
Say that again?
As soon as we complete the land exchange, then we will do that.
If it's utilities area, why would it matter?
Excuse me?
If it's utilities area, why would it matter? Why not start now? Because you got your answer, it'll probably end by July. And if you wait for the land exchange, you may miss another cycle.
Because it's still your utilities.
I believe it is the city of Newport Richey Utility Service.
It is,
Yeah, but it is our,
utility service.
yeah, so,
Correct.
well, but hey, work together and let's go get the money. But either way, if we get the money or not, that project, we voted that we wanted.
Ms. Mans and I will talk.
Yeah.
We certainly will, thank you.
What's happening on your, can I ask?
Go ahead.
What's happening on the Domini project?
We've actually had good news on that project in recent times. Several months ago, they reported a rather significant funding shortage.
Yeah.
And I know that you, Commissioner, have been very involved in helping them sort of close the gap on that. And they have come much closer, at least to a point that they feel that they'll be able to initiate construction this year.
Wonderful.
If everything comes together as planned. And they have scheduled a meeting with me to talk about the few remaining details on transfer of some development rights and the onset of the permitting process. So I feel very good that they've been able to bring to closure funding and proceed with the project.
For my commissioners who aren't up on this is an age-restricted 60% AMI project behind the Southgate Publix. How many units?
388.
388, so it's big. And I'm just so happy for our citizens, older citizens that can't afford a place, that this is going to be an opportunity for them. When I learned that they were going to be short of funding, I looked to see if we could kind of do a live local deal where we would take them off the tax rolls until they got up to that 10 million. Because this is a charitable purpose. But because they are 60% age restricted, they are not on the tax rolls. They're already off the tax rolls. So I learned something. Did you know that?
Yes, and they are, it's a fine project, and we're
It's a wonderful
proud to have
project.
it.
We have a Dominion project going by Anglo High School, but it's not age restricted. But it is 60% AMI, 260 units.
Maybe, I mean, it seems like we entered something about wastewater treatment plant, but I'm not sure we've answered all those questions.
I put that in here. Did you guys already talk about that?
No, we have not.
And I
That's
just,
where we're at.
okay, so this is something that we'll talk about on March 22nd. I don't know when you want to bring this up, Dr. Bells, but, you know, there's a lot of money for infrastructure and talk about coastal hardening and whatever the correct terms are. And it seems that having a wastewater treatment plant in a low-lying coastal area is not a good idea. And you know, we talked about this before, the desire to maybe move that off the coast. And so there's plenty of money out there that we could go after to get that moving. So this is one of the things we'll be discussing on March 22nd with all the federal agencies. Because that is a plant for you all that we share jointly. Is it 60-40?
Yes.
No, 51-49 now, that you took over Gulf Harbor.
51-49, but we share ownership and work jointly on it.
But we're still at 49.
You're not there. You're not in control.
Just
yet.
wait. Anyway, that's not the highest best use for that property, right? I drove by it the other day.
Yeah, that's a good functioning plant with still a lot of capacity left, but I think it makes sense for us to start planning the relocation, because I'm in agreement that the coastal area is not the best place for it. So, but that is a huge project, and we'll have to find some sizable grants to help us.
Yeah.
So how much land does that sit on, the wastewater plant?
How much land?
Yeah, the way it's not huge, but what is it, 4 acres? The size of
It's in a couple pieces. It's kind of
Yeah, it's very.
So,
There's even.
but if you're looking at it, would you actually be looking to expand it if you're going to move it away from that coast, but expand it to help take care of other areas? The growth that's happening.
It would make sense to do, I think.
Yeah. So you probably need to look for a piece of property that maybe you can have.
We need to look for one. You're 49% now, so.
There might be something we can clean up when we move it, so we have to see.
It'd be a good spot for some fish farming after it's emptied out.
Fish. All right, let's move on. Fort Richey Coastal Restoration Resiliency. So, as is a Fort Richey item.
So, yeah, I put that on there, just kind of, I guess, talk a little bit and give an update of where we're at. Also working with the county. Dredging's been a long time sore point with the residents to get that done as well. And obviously, it's kind of a non-starter, seems like, on a lot of fronts. But so what we're looking at, obviously, is doing a more comprehensive coastal restoration resiliency project, where there's lots of federal dollars that are available to help out with that. And our Port Authority chair, Carl Roth, has been working with our city manager, Matt. Anything to add, Matt, on kind of where you guys are at with those talks. But as a part of our vision scope stuff that we're looking at meeting tonight, actually talking about what we can do with our waterways and whatnot. So.
And we have, don't we have some dredging going on now? Because I I mean, I heard about it a while back, but I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, we've got some projects that are currently in permitting right now on those priority areas, and then the board has recently approved engineering contracts for us to begin doing what I'll just call smaller dredging projects, getting them set up. You know, the idea is because the MSBU is to establish kind of a revolving fund and then start moving towards maintenance of those waterways. So that's part of that strategy. I don't know, Branford, if I've left anything out on that.
Yeah, Branford, you want to answer that or?
Yes, I think Mike said all the points. We are the design stage for these projects.
Okay. Ms. Mariano?
Yes. So yesterday we were with Noah, we put some booms on. Anthony, one of our branch people, was out there talking about what's going on and trying to work with the city. We talked about Magnolia Valley, the stormwater project coming through. We've done the northern outfall design. The southern outfall could come back into play again, which I think would be great to clear out that big pond and bay, those 5 canals that connect out. So I think the potential there is huge. There's opportunities there to kind of combine that directly with DOT as well as other funding sources out there like you're mentioning, which is music to my ears. Finally, you guys are, I don't know if I say finally, but I'm glad you guys are moving that way with it, because we finally get the template in place to do MSBUs up and down the whole coast. And you guys could be added to it as we talked, months before. And Dave, seeing you're on the board now, I'm sure you guys can keep moving. But if you work with our staff, they're happy to work with you to try to get you in the loop and get you in the funding cycles as we go through in the study parts that are coming up. Westport is an agenda item coming up that's on the Tuesday's meeting. There's one of those MSBUs coming forward. Okay. Happy to work with you guys.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh, excuse me.
I keep putting this thing up, it doesn't want to lay down. Yeah, Mike.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Mariano has led the charge on the expansion of our scalping season. Has been very successful. And, I bring this up under this coastal restoration and resiliency because we know that the quality of the water does have an impact upon scallops. There was a net ban put in years ago that's brought fisheries back along the coastline. But really what I was wanting to talk about with this group today is that, and it falls within this category of dredging and so forth, and really the three of us here, I'd like to see us come together to maybe form a group to really study the water quality of the Pasco County River. It is a very important recreational source and economic source for all three of us. And I think that we need to probably, the city could take steps, but if those steps are not similar to what Port Richey would take, or also upstream the county would take, it wouldn't make sense. That water washes up and down through that river at all times. And this is not a project or something that can be done overnight, but I think we need to start and focus on what things we can do to preserve and enhance the quality of that river, and start finding ways that we can do so. I know the city is looking at ways to capture more stormwater, to keep it from dirty water necessarily flowing back into the river at a rate it is now, but we also need that upstream and downstream. So, I would propose that we try to get together a group to begin exploring that and seeing just what kind of steps we could start putting in place. It's a long-term project, but we never get there if you don't start. So, just wanted to bring that up.
Yes, sir. And I guess to Fort Richey, I'm on the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council along with Commissioner Mariano, and I happen to be the chairman of the 5-county Regional Resiliency Committee, which is one of the most active activities there. And that includes Manatee, Citrus, Hernando, Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough. There's a ton of money that's coming in, and there's been a lot of discussion at our last steering committee meeting about this is the time we have to go for it. So when it comes to asking for funding or going after it, The Regional Planning Council has now started to dispatch their members, their staff. So they have someone appointed to the county now, and they have someone appointed to our city. And I don't know what it takes for the size of the city of Port Richey to join the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, but they are the recipient of a lot of these funds. So I would encourage you to maybe consider or attend. But there is a summit on, and I've got the date here, on May the 9th and the 10th at Clearwater Beach, which is bringing in professionals from all over. In fact, Mike, you have attended not only that with your staff, but to Councilman Peters' comments, we have got interest from St. Leo University in beginning to hold their marine biology classes in West Pasco, and they're interested in bringing their brand, their university brand, over to the coast. And the Energy Management Center, which is, I think, probably officially on the Port Richey side of things, they're overloaded with classes, and they need another location. So, Mr. Biddlecrum, if I could put you on the hot seat, you and I discussed exactly what Mike was talking about in finding ways that we could examine from the vulnerability studies, the available monies, some joint programs. May I ask if I could ask you to speak to what was germinated your idea, or if I'm allowed? Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Alan Middlecombe. I work in public infrastructure, but also with Mark Ellis in the Office of Strategy and Sustainability. We've been engaged for well over a year now working on a countywide vulnerability assessment, and that's going to be culminating here pretty quickly. Both of our cities present have also been doing the same initiative, the same effort. I think City of Port Richey you've completed yours, and then Newport Richey is in final stages of completing yours, right? So we're about neck and neck with you on ours. And another thing brought up was the March 22nd meeting, which will be the morning of March 22nd in our EOC, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. A lot of state and federal agencies coming in to talk about physical resilience and also economic resilience. So to the point of what Councilman Altman was talking about, yes, we've been meeting with and working with our EMC, the Energy and Marine Center that the Pasco County School Board has, and trying to see if there's any synergy and momentum that we can gain with different activities, whether it's St. Leo engaging or participating, or even expanding. I think they are planning to expand or renovate that facility, but to the extent of getting the Florida Institute of Oceanography involved and pushing to develop a center, what's called a center of excellence that exists up and down the Gulf Coast. So we're looking at all different avenues for stuff like that. So.
And I just want to reiterate, if you could just say 1 minute, because about what's going on March 22nd.
Yeah. In the wake of several of our storms, Idalia and Ian, the federal government and the state government have coordinated to offer up funding for physical and economic resilience. And the main players in terms of the agencies have been Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council in our region, but also working with US EDA, Economic Development Agency, FEMA and FDEM both, and as well as Florida Commerce. There's a number of other agencies that also have money that could apply to Pasco County. Some that we don't immediately think of, like the Army Corps of Engineers. We've already had a conversation with them as an outshoot of some of these meetings. But the meetings have been happening as far north as Citrus County and all the way down to Manatee County. And now Pasco's coming in on they're actually coming to Pasco County, March 22nd, morning, March 22nd. So there'll be EDA, Army Corps of Engineers, a number of just all of the different funding agencies out there. Not the least of which could be, for our purposes, USDA can provide money for projects that aren't necessarily strictly agricultural, but we are an agricultural county, so we can apply for some of that.
Great.
So an invite will be coming out perhaps as soon as this afternoon, if not in the next day or two, and that's being pushed out by the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council.
City Manager forward.
Thank you. Kind of following up on this conversation, and what the mayor alluded to, I've been working with our Port Authority chair, kind of quietly putting together a strategy of a more regional approach to the water quality issues, not only along the river, but also in the estuaries that make up on the Gulf Coast of the city. And I think it's something that the city is more than willing to take the lead on once council does a goal setting and say they want to do that. But I think it's something that really is going to take a regional effort and probably a state effort really to bring it about. Because it's not going to be funded ultimately the things that are necessary to do this are millions and millions and tens of millions and millions of dollars. We have reached out to the Tampa Bay Regional Planning. We're a collaborator on their more recent grant application. We're looking to bring them in a little bit closer, maybe not join, but again, that's something that City Council will have to discuss and determine whether that's a good move for us or not. But what we've been looking at, the chair and myself, is putting together a regional meeting to start talking about this. And again, I think he has an interesting perspective that maybe government isn't the solution to this. And I don't necessarily disagree with him that we really need to bring our universities, we need to bring our MPOs, we need to bring private sector people together to really start looking at this and creating momentum to move forward with it. We actually, when we first met, we were supposed to be having a meeting this month. But again, life got in the way. But it's something that I think, representatives from the county, are on our plans to invite. Definitely the representatives from Newport Richey, and a lot of other, the states, federal, a lot of universities. I mean, we want to get a lot of perspectives on what it really is going to take to, restore that's the wrong word. We're never going to restore what was there, right? But we're going to adapt to what it is today to try to bring back what restoration could have been, right? If we didn't do the development along the coast as it is. And I think that's an important issue, to the city, because you look at the bayou, it definitely, it's not necessarily thriving, it's okay, but it could be so much better. And going out into the Gulf, I think we need to have goals that really say that we need to be more inland to protect what we have in the Gulf. And again, that's where it brings you guys and the county in, because in the end, what we're dumping into it is what's causing the issue there. And to stop that and correct it is very expensive. I've been at the end of a long hike in the county, from a county removed from the county I was in, that was dumping a lot of effluent into a lake. And to get the 40 or so jurisdictions on board is a massive thing. Here we don't have that. We have a few. And I think we have a better chance of correcting this and setting this on a trajectory that I think we all can be proud of down the road. But it's going to take us getting together and bringing in the private sector, the education, a lot of different players that probably haven't been brought to the table yet.
Mr. Mariano? Yeah, I strongly recommend you join the Regional Planning Council. I don't think the membership's that much money. for a city of this size?
I don't pay the bills, he does, so.
It's not a lot of money, but right now, resiliency is the big thing. And for years, they struggled for relevancy when DRIs kind of get kicked away. It's a big deal right now. Recently, working with the estuary, who just deals with Tampa Bay, everything connects to it, they wanted to go put some baffle boxes after I was talking about them. And I said, well, that's good that you guys want to do it, but I want to do it for the rest of the region too. So we did a joint application with the Regional Planning Council and the estuary. Had a total of $8.5 million. Now, I will say, Ed Sherwood with the estuary, he pushed forward the estuary and left out the rest of us. But the rest of us are coming in.
Oh, I know that.
So we're now making that stand going forward. And the leadership is fully supportive to it. So when that money comes out, this is like $4.5 million, $4.25 million, going to go for baffle boxes. Now, to work with the cities, those baffle boxes treat the water before it gets to the Gulf. So it keeps the bayou cleaner, it keeps the river cleaner, and those opportunities are out there. And it's good money. We've got a lot of local expertise that can go do it. So I suggest you jump in. Even if you don't want to decide on joining right away, come to the meetings. Watch them on Zoom or something, but get a feel for what's going on. But right now, this summer coming up, great educational stuff going on, great participation. Again, if you can tame it with their money that they get, it's only going to help you that much more. So the regional group you want to get, it's already existing.
So I'm texting with Keith over there, put you on the spot, but if you remember last year at one of these meetings, I had looked at the list from last year's appropriations and saw how few counties or cities and organizations in our county asked for funding from the state, and put a call out there to all the cities to please be asking for money. And I don't think you guys did an appropriation last year.
We did.
You did?
We have 3 working actually.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so, because there is one for working waterfronts. But Keith tells me, is saying you need to have a regional watershed protection plan to get working waterfronts money, is that correct?
Well, I mean,
and I think that's one where there's a pot of money in there, you just get your share of it when you ask.
So Keith Wiley, Pasco County Parks, Recreation, Natural Resources Director. I mean, quite honestly, Commissioner, any grant application, you need to have a shelf-ready plan. I don't think that's something that this group doesn't know. I think, we can talk about collaborating and getting together, but quite honestly, you need a very clear and direct plan in place. And Alan and I have talked about this a bunch. I think we're heading in that direction. To date, I don't think we have that plan. So that's pretty much what I was implying.
Okay, but are you aware of the Working Waterfronts grant program? That's one of those ones, like the cultural one, that there's money appropriated just sitting there and you have to just go ask for a piece of that pot. It seems that would be great for your waterfront, so that's all. I'd ask me. One says landscape design, you know that stuff. Just again, listen, I'm so happy to see your new sign that goes across, and your hotel, and the college. But Councilman Peters and I have talked about the very, very poor landscaping in front of those buildings, which to me means that there's a hole in your landscaping ordinance. Is there anything we can do to beef up the landscaping in front of those 2 signature businesses in front of your community? It's so sad what they look like. I mean, that's so minimal.
In response, I can tell you that there's a letter of agreement in place to upgrade the landscaping at the Comfort Inn Hotel. And I do have a meeting with the developer of the Kaiser property on Thursday, at which time I do hope to persuade him into some additional landscape so that they improve the look of that property, because as you're indicating, the scale of the building really minimizes the size of the landscaping on the property. It just doesn't seem to have any balance. And you're right, it emanates from the fact that our landscape ordinance is really outdated, and needs to be improved, and that is a project that we do have in mind. And it's a priority project, and we will be upgrading that and our silo events as well.
Yeah, and to just touch on the sign orders for a second, you know, we went to monument signs a long time ago, and we are, if you drive down 54 South, you'll see a lot of the signs, big ones have come down, and we've given some grants to help that, and I know you have some, you may have a program that maybe will help that, I don't know, but when we drove to Tallahassee, maybe we drove to Tallahassee this session, if you get up there in Perry and those other places where the storms went through, all those lollipop, that's what that stick with the thing, those are called lollipop signs, destroyed. So not only are the monument signs, and I'd say this to Port Richey too, because you have a sign problem too, not only are much more aesthetic and the other ones are so outdated, they don't get killed in a storm. So it's, we also just changed ours. I'm not necessarily a fan of it, but we do allow now the changeable face signs. We have restrictions on them. They can't be real bright. They can't change so often. But there's a trade-off. If you do a changeable face sign, you can't have other kind of signs, so it's one or nothing. We also said no more feather banners, and I don't even know if you guys allow those.
We do not.
But unfortunately, we're not really enforcing that yet. You can have one feather banner. You can't have multiple. But
is there a time limit on the feather banner?
Well,
I mean, typically there's
banners
for like 30 days or something for
there should be. Yeah, they're supposed to have a little. Yeah.
I think we're on a 365
We are. There is a time limit for a temporary sign, but it's not. That's why it's such a hard thing for people to enforce. I mean, to have code enforcement go up to every sign and look at the back and see if it's got a sticker, whatever. It's just really hard. So we just went to one per, and I don't know if Denise is here. There's some nuances to our sign norms, but we're constantly improving it. Y'all are, we can just send you ours instead of reinventing the wheel, and you can tweak it to see, but may not fit yours. I can tell you our height is 11 feet. Our width is 22 feet, which is kind of crazy. It's like a school bus sitting on the ground. I wouldn't have you copy that 22 feet. And there are some nuances if you have a parcel with multiple tenants, you can have a different kind of sign, but we're happy to send that to you if that helps you with your process. Same with you guys.
Denise, would you like to say something to the sign ordinance? Just add a little bit, and then possibly forward them our ordinance so let them see it.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Denise Hernandez. I'm the zoning administrator with the Planning and Economic Growth Department. So yes, we did modify our sign code in 2022. Also, another thing that would be helpful for the cities is that our sign code is also consistent with the Supreme Court decision in 2015 of Reed versus Town of Gilbert. So it's not content-based. So I will certainly send our sign code to everyone here, or I'll forward it to Mr. Carbala's office and have everyone a list of the information on our sign code. So we restructured our sign code, made it consistent with the Supreme Court decision, Reed versus Gilbert, and also our board said to us, hey, we want to see digital signs, so we created a digital sign program for parcels that are zoned commercial, office, industrial, and industrial. So, okay, thanks.
Mr. Murphy?
I was just going to say back about the landscaping, and I talked with Ms. Baines about especially what you were talking about front there, and I think part of the issue was, and it's obviously not specified in our ordinance, but the size of the plants. If you say, we got to put a tree in or put a bush in, and it's only a foot tall, it's going to take 10 years for that thing to grow to where you want it. So I think we need to just implement that where it's got to be a little bit further along in their life cycle and taller and bigger to help with that. So.
And that's your gateway right there.
Yeah. Your landscaping and architectural buildings is what makes it all worthwhile. People coming into your community and they actually fall in love with it because it looks better. And you know, all the growth and everything that we have, it's not that we can stop the growth. But in fact, you make it look better and look like you want it to look for your community.
There's going to be more landscaping with our new sidewalks.
Right.
And just to let you know that we now have a commercial code enforcement team that got in our budget last October. They started at the County Line Road on US 19 and they've come up to 54 and now they're going down 54. I think we have 70 violations so far of businesses who have let existing landscaping die, including our car dealers, just, it's everybody. So we are working with those businesses to get that landscaping put back in, whether it's because they violated our landscaping ordinance or they didn't have to have any landscaping because they predated it, and we have grant programs for that. So we are working hard to bring those back up.
Well, fantastic, and we appreciate the work the county's done with the landscaping and the median on US 19. We take pride in our section, try to maintain that, and you mentioned that Kaiser University. It's interesting. Ms. Mans and I have had a couple discussions regarding that specific building. That is a prototype building that Kaiser uses various parts of the state, and it really came to light to me earlier this year as I was driving down Interstate 75 towards Fort Myers. I pressed Kaiser University just like that. They had 100 palm trees on their property. I go, hey, how'd we lose out, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk to those folks and hopefully get that. But we do, and we will make changes to our landscape.
And we have gone out to bid, and I think we've accepted someone to take over our maintenance of our medians on 19, because I think the company we had wasn't doing a great job. We've also, I have a meeting coming up, we're also going to be doing the medians in our roads. And we'll do one road a year, I think. I think we're starting with Little Road. But, that, I worked real hard a long time ago to get those bushes in those medians, and we didn't really do a great job. Little, on Seven Springs, they're all over. But, so we're going to start doing a better job of landscaping in those medians and taking care of it. And that'll work its way through the whole town.
You find a lot of your businesses that their landscaping is spelled out. They basically had to have fall into the ordinance when they first put the business in. So they're interested in starting their business, getting going, selling product, making money, and they forget about their landscape. I mean, just get past them, because they're there to make money.
Well, I did have a...
And they'll make money better if they look better, so.
I had a banker literally tell me that they get their CO and they take it out and they move it to another way. So we kind of, they don't do it anymore.
I get a break from my lawn in the winter, but I got to go back to work in the summer.
Right. Yeah. So, but next Port Richey, we have county property at 5246 Limestone Drive.
Yeah, so this is your property you guys bought where the hotel is there on the corner of the bridge that you guys have plans to put a boat ramp in. So I wanted to see where you're all at with that. I know I think you were, last time we talked, we were a couple of years out from actually doing that. Obviously, we've got our waterfront, which is mostly for sale, and it's part of under contract, the Guild Dog Properties, as well as the old trailer park lot there on 19. Investors in the city, as well as I think there's a couple of investors that are in the city and outside the city as well that are looking at purchasing that and doing some stuff down there. Obviously, without getting into too many details, there's a lot of stuff going on, interest. Our boat ramp, obviously, right there in the center of all that, waterfront, not the greatest location to have that. But you guys plan to do a boat ramp there. I guess I was wanting to see the future as we look at long-term plans on what we do with our boat ramp. A couple of you all on that project. We also have a pier that we've kind of done design and plans on, at Limestone Pier that's right next to that. That's a plan that we're looking at. We don't know if we're going to go
Where's the
there.
pier?
It's the old 19 bridge.
Old Post Road?
That's Old Dixie Highway.
No, right at the end of the Limestone.
Next to Whiskey.
Right there next to Whiskey River. So it's the old bridge remnants, and so
You're wanting to do something to that pier?
well, so what we've done so far, obviously, we've done engineering plans to go forward with that, and what the old structure there, regardless whether they put a new one in on top of it, or we don't do anything with it, it needs to be tore out. It's not a viable structure, okay? And so I think that coming out of there, whether we put another pier on top of it, which I don't necessarily, I think that's not the greatest idea, unless we couple with you guys' project and what you guys do with your boat ramp or whatever.
Now it'll be a P4.
So Keith Wiley again. What we have done to date is we obviously conducted a feasibility study, very high level, to see if in fact we would have success in using that property as a boat ramp. And so obviously without all of the in-water surveys and things like that, it's good. There's a good opportunity there, but we've been talking to City Manager Debbie Nance and other folks at City of Newport Richey about a potential partnership. So I think until all that comes clear, we're not exactly sure where we're going to go with that project. I will clarify that that it's not in the Parks Capital Plan as of now, so we're waiting to get direction from the BCC on what we do. When I was speaking to the previous city manager for the City of Port Richey, we had talked about knowing the structural integrity of the old bridge is what is where it was at. We were talking about maybe converting it to get it out of the waterway and bring that public access along the shoreline, so that way you're not missing any opportunities for public access, but you're not obstructing the waterway. Because I think from a permitting perspective, if you look at all the activity at that location and that structure stays in the water, it's probably going to reduce quite honestly, the potential to ultimately get a permit at the end of the day. So just from a public safety standpoint. I don't know if, Debbie, if you want to say anything, or Commissioner Starkey.
Well, I just think that, if you remember from the ULI study, the first one years ago and the second one, but we're underutilizing some of the best assets in the county. And I'm excited that there may be an opportunity to do something on that south side of the river that would involve all three of us. And my goal when I first started hunting up and down the coastline was to find more places to put boats, and knowing what all the great work Jack's done on extending the scout season, and knowing what's going on at Ankle River Park, where there's fist fights on Saturday morning because not enough people can get their boats in. And this is a statewide problem. It's not just us, but we need more boater access to the water, not less. And so we were lucky to jump on that property, and we are willing to work with everybody to get the best solution for everybody. I don't think what's there now is the best solution, and I'm glad this project's moving forward.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. And I think Debbie Mans brought up a great point a couple of years ago when we talked about getting this land and we got it. It's actually trying to work on that hotel motel that's right there as well. You get those three pieces together, now you get something that's really could be really impressive.
Yeah.
I will say Fish and Wildlife is also like to get a spot on that river as well, where they have to ticket somebody or bring someone in, they can actually have a spot and have a headquarters to go from as well, to give them good access to get to up and down the whole coast. So definitely a thing of work, but I think that hotel down the street is, right next door, is going to be a key piece of the whole thing.
I think there's some things in play there.
There's a lot of access to that river and out to the Gulf that we need to make better. And, we're willing to help. Jack's helped with the scallop season. Mike Wells, prior to him, got that scallop season started there. Jack's worked further and got it over there. And it starts a little later, but the main reason it's starting later is the fact that you get larger scallops. So I don't know who set the limit, but that's not going to be. You can get those 5-gallon buckets, whatever, but you're not going to eat those for dinner. Unless you have one salad or something. But it takes a lot of them, so it's cheaper getting right above it. So. But the fact of it is we're here to work with each of y'all and to make this side of the county as beautiful as we can, because there's two histories. There's the east side history and west side history. But we have a lot of things that we need to work together and do better. So.
Tourism, that's tourism.
And yeah, bring a lot of tourism.
And it's in our name, right? Sports Coast.
Yes.
We gotta take care of our coast.
Okay, one last thing on annexes.
Yeah, so I put this on here, obviously it's an issue of mine to grow the city of Port Richey. And it's my understanding in the past, our water service goes outside the city all the way up to 52 on the west side of 19. And so my understanding is that at one time the city actually went to acquire those properties where our water footprint is, and that got shut down at the end. So I guess I wanted to kind of bring it around, see you guys at, do you guys support annexation? And if we look to grow, and also we're going to, I think there's some stuff in the works now, we'll kind of look at what area we want to tackle, but I want to see if the county supports that effort. So I know, obviously, from your perspective, I would think that would only help you. Obviously, you guys continue to bring in the same ad valorem tax that you have. We take it on, and we actually serve our police and fire, so it makes sense. I believe there's some issues with service now, people in the county, that's what I hear. So I think it'd be a win-win for both of us. Obviously, we grow, we will take on a little bit more, we service those areas, relieve some of that service from you guys, but yet financially you still kind of make out. So I just want to see if that's something that you guys support or not before we start to look at that.
I mean, I think devil's always in the details. We'd love to learn more about what the plans are and see and make sure it's a mutually beneficial thing. So let's sit down. I'll be happy to sit with the city manager and go through some details and be able to run those through our board.
And it's very early, but I just, like I said, the idea that if you guys support it, I guess we'll look at it. If it makes sense, obviously, I think.
Obviously, if it makes sense and the board finds that too.
Annexation is good for community to grow, but the fact of it is, it needs to be mutually supportive and let it flourish and do the best. Because when you take on a lot of annexation, we've had some on the east side lately, a lot of annexation. And then they find out they don't have ability to service with sewer or water and things of this nature. And they're kind of stuck because they didn't work ahead of time and make sure we have all these things in place. So it's very important, and we're more than happy, like Mr. Fowler and the team, and be more than happy to sit down with you and go over the details.
Yeah, let's get it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Oh, Ms. Van.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we close, I wanted to ask about a subject that was very nicely presented to us at our last session by Mrs. Pearson, and it had to do with a housing project that was proposed for our homeless population. And I know that you, as a commission, have been good enough to appropriate some funding to support a project, and I was just interested in a status report, if that's possible, and it looks like it is.
Ms. Pearson, she's ready.
Hello, everybody. Kathy Pearson, Assistant County Administrator, Public Services. Thank you, Debbie, for bringing that up. And I want to say, first of all, thank you to our Board of County Commissioners. Yes, they have been fully supported in funding a project for the homeless. And I want to say, Debbie, City Manager Deb, that I met with your LIFT team last week. Phenomenal.
Thank you.
So their chief of police has formed a LIFT team where they actually go into the camps, and they're really trying to help supply services for them. And we learned a lot. We're going to continue meeting on a quarterly basis. But again, I asked them the question, is the homeless population increasing? And they said, oh, yes. Our homeless count's not showing that, but the folks that are actually working with them are saying it is. And so, again, I asked, what's the county need to do? We have no way to put them. So I know I did that presentation to you. We are actively, we have a building picked out. Eric Breitenbach and I have been working diligently with these folks. I guess I might as well share it. It's the Times building on 19, which has about 8 acres. They're willing to work with us. Unfortunately, it's not as easy sale as we would have liked it to be because the feds have seized their assets. So we are going through a whole big rigmarole with that to try to even get that going. So we are still waiting pattern for that. In the meantime, though, we have looked at other locations. We will continue to look at other locations. I've looked at a few last week with Eric's real estate team. We've got a couple more planned in the next few weeks, and hopefully we can come to some sort of a resolution where we can get a place, have a not-for-profit run it, have a size enough land where we can put pallet homes on there, and really start helping make an impact for our homeless.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Yes.
Sure. Mr. Brown.
Let me ask a question, because I was informed of this from a homeless shelter we have in the county. Last week, the last 2 weeks, they've had people from down in Largo being shipped up and bussed up here, dropped off, with no notice to even the shelter coming in. And I want to know if our population is increasing, where are they coming from? And what are we doing to send them back to where they came from?
I can't answer that question, Commissioner. I'm sorry I can't, but I did talk with the LIFT team because there was that article in the paper, and we did talk about they're not voluntarily bringing people from other counties. They're trying to do the best they can to get them back to the counties where they belong. So I did work and address that, and I think we've addressed that countywide with a lot of the not-for-profits. I don't know about the Largo one, so I can't follow up, and even if you want to give me some information, I'll follow up with them. I did follow up with this one with Debbie and the LIFT group, and there were some certain circumstances with that one.
And I know you just worked with us closely on, we had a fire up by the old flea market up in Hudson, and they called it in for a fire. Sheriff's deputies were going out there, and they found it was an 8-year-old and a 14-year-old living there. They were from Hernando.
Yep.
And came down. And staff was working to get them back out there.
Yes.
But clearly, if we've got to take care of our own homeless, that's one thing. I don't want to take care of somebody else's. I want to send it back to it.
And that was, once we found out they were from Hernando County, the orders were, and we said, no, we're not going to provide you services, because they already had services in Hernando. So why are you going to take away from services from us? So I just want to say that, I want to say thank you for the county commission. We are definitely know it's a problem. The county has stepped in. Just be patient with us. We're trying to find that right location. If you know of one, give me a ring. Thanks.
All right, thank you. That ends everything we've got listed here to talk about. Mr. Paul, would you like to have any closing words, or?
No, I just, thank all of you for joining us here. From the administrative perspective, it's great to have these, getting everyone together to share ideas and see where there's alignment and consensus. That really helps us, as city managers and administrators to kind of focus our efforts. So thank you for your candor and your discussion. Thanks to the team for showing up here today too to answer questions. And looking forward to doing another one sometime soon. So just appreciate you.
Yep, thank you. And you'll notice we're here and we're willing to help. I'm at a little disadvantage because I'm an East Pasco person. Anything from 41 back to the east side to the Green Swamp, I can tell you about. Without even going out and looking at the projects, I can tell you about that. But when you come on the west side of 41, I'm limited, even though I had a business here back in the 80s, central business I had here on Madison, that I ran for about 11 years.
We'll share fishing holes if you share his hunting spots.
Well, hunting over there is limited down there. Where you might have been hunting at one time, it's a house sitting there now. So it's a shame of some of that, but the fact of it is, I care about the west side just as I care for the east side. I rely on my commissioners here on the west side and I've always made, ever since I first ran, I've waded in the water before back here. You did. And in fact, there was somebody said, well, why are you doing that? I said, well, someday there's going to be a question asked, and there's going to be something to vote on, helping that, curing that flooding issue. I want to be able to vote with Jack or Catherine or whoever's got the issue to support them and the good things that can happen here on the west side. I've always supported the Pioneer Museum. Has our history on the east side, and over here they have the Historic Society here that takes care of the west side. So it's really great that we have two histories, but we're not letting them die. So we keep trying to support them. So Jack.
Thank you. And Chairman Oaken is absolutely right. One time he was first running, he's over in Griffin Park. I'm down in Beacon Woods. I'm with a guy who just showed me the past week the floodwaters were like up here, and they had to drop down like 8 feet. Meanwhile, he's on the other side of Griffin Park, the floodwaters going up. That helped us find out what the problem is. As a matter of fact, and our consortium money coming up is part of that to fix that coming up. just from that expertise. But I'm glad you mentioned Pioneer Museum.
It's 10 years.
I'm telling you, it's been great. But Pioneer Museum, very big. I want to say, I was down to, I used to sit in the board when the Richey Center was there many years ago with Charlie Skelton, the governor. And very impressed with what we had accomplished. But I will tell you that new board there is very impressive.
Awesome.
They're doing the things that we talked about doing that didn't get done, as far as like bringing all the racks in. But we'd love to put some money into it. We want to see you guys jump into it too, and let's go elevate that thing. That's a jewel. That's a jewel. There we go.
I think the owner of Sienna said it's the cornerstone of the city.
It is.
And you talk about that coming from the person that owns Sienna. So that's very interesting.
That's like a target industry that can read all sorts of other great things all around it. And that's the team in there, very, very impressive.
That's strong.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize again, Mr. Carvalho came and spoke to the Municipal Association of Pasco's meeting over in San Antonio last 6 months, a year ago, however long it's been. And at that meeting, he referenced the kind of spirit of the Corps that's here today, and not looking at our municipal boundaries as being our responsibilities and yours being the remainder, but rather sort of the union of the set of our county. And so I wanted to thank you for that sort of inspiration to us to work together. It was mentioned earlier about your help with administration, and in my long career from 1986 till now, and seeing all of the county staff, seeing your county staff at city manager, county administrator conferences, redevelopment conferences, resiliency conferences, it is an incredibly powerful group that you have at your disposal as county commissioners. And I'm going to encourage my colleagues, I believe we'll be in agreement. We can't talk unless we're in a meeting like this together, but that, as you know, we have a citywide CRA. It's been the cause of much concern by a lot of people because of how much money, of tax money that goes from our city residents, taxes that they pay to the county, that's coming back and pouring back into the city of Newport Richey. So when we talk about the money to do projects, we have that capability. You have the administrative and planning support. Right now we don't even have a planning director at this time. I really am excited about these collaborative discussions. The school board, the county, seeing what has been done, for example, in the Starkey Ranch, I think, example of the county and the school board working together with libraries. This goes well with our citizens. We serve probably 80% of the folks in our retail are coming from outside the city limits. So to the degree we can invite you to participate in the development of our plans so that you feel part of it. I, for one, remember when we sat with Mike Wells and Hildebrand and the gang when Mike Wells first proposed countywide library bond issue and a countywide recreation bond issue. And our city had been ahead of the game in that we were just building a new library, and our recreation facility is, we feel, a superior facility to many around, and we know that you're building those same kind of facilities now. I'm hopeful that we can truly become partners with you all, and so thank you for having this meeting. And there's a lot of ideas that are still left bouncing around, but now's the time for us to do them. The money's out there, the grants are out there. I would appeal to my colleagues. You guys have the expertise to help us administratively. We've already got some of your money. Look at our redevelopment plan and make it your redevelopment plan and use that money to really do what your plan that Catherine, who had something else to go to apparently, mentioned earlier, which was an award-winning plan at the Regional Planning Council that said the River District, the Newport Richey, Port Richey Center was going to be the impetus for the economic revitalization of the west side of the county that's so important. And so we have some money to put some skin in the game. Now, I remember you saying that the first day I got back in the second time. And some of it is your skin. So hopefully we can find a way to support what is really exciting that's happening in the city. And I think this is the best of times after this 21st year of public service for me, to be with my colleagues, to be able to see the results of all this activity. And I thank you for having this meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to go back to when you opened the meeting, you mentioned about the lack of participation for Richey, so I want to apologize for that. And I want to let you know we're here now and we intend to stay here and be part of this. I think this meeting's extremely valuable. I think it's very important that the county, the two cities work together on the growth that's coming in. And so I would actually make a suggestion that instead of having these once a year, that we can maybe occasionally better is biannually, at least twice a year, and maybe even more often than that. But I think more than once a year is definitely in order. I think that would be beneficial.
You can look at that, discuss it. But I wasn't trying to point you out that a lot of your people hadn't been here before, but the fact of it is, I'm very happy to see you here.
Yeah, and we'll continue.
Because we want to have this collaboration between both cities and us, because we all work together. Mr. Caballo brought county attorney, didn't bring anything he had work to do today, but he'll probably think of something later. Chris here to keep you out of trouble. All our ACAs and our different people in different divisions are here to answer questions and do what we want to do together.
Unless you're in this office right, or in this meeting right here, you really don't know where the lines are between the two cities and the county.
Well, I know on the east side, they look like your hands stretched over to the city, and you got these fingers of the city and the county on the next.
That's the same
one
thing.
road's city, one road's county, and it's crazy. So
I call it Swiss cheese.
We always need to look at that further and try to make those fingers kind of disappear so they can.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's plus for all of us actually to be able to work. Because I know what we did early on, we had that storm and we had all that trash all over the county. It was hard to figure out, we don't pick up on that street, we pick up on this next street. And it was pretty amazing how we got it all cleaned up. But our staff and group did a great job, So we missed the boat a few times in some of our storms. This last one was very lucky we missed that boat. So you can see the destruction north of us when it went out. Florida, and then all up in Georgia, if you're driven 75 of them, you see billboards and signs just torn down everywhere. So, and some of that still hadn't been cleaned up. So, but I want to thank you again for everybody being here. We will try to talk about and have maybe another meeting a year, because sometimes I'd rather talk to you more than just once a year. So I just went and spoke at the Dade City at a workshop, and I hadn't been before that council since the 70s when I spoke to him before. But as a commissioner, I've never been there like that. But it was in the 70s when I was there speaking to the council about a project back that time. But it's been a long time for that council. But there's a lot of things we need to work together and do things right, because the cities have an opportunity to annex, but we need to make sure we got services for everybody. So your citizens are our citizens. So with that, I'll close the meeting with adjourn.
All right. Thank you.